Alright everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's Matty here from Chill TCG. Today we're going to be taking a look at the top 16 deck lists from our 527 player Chill Series number 37 tournament, which finished this past Wednesday. One of the biggest tournaments that we've ever run. Absolutely phenomenal. And definitely the biggest tournament of all time in this new format, this Chilling Reign format, or so far at least. So a massive tournament, a lot of great players came out to play. And as we can see here when we go to standings, tons of really great deck lists that we're going to be able to take a look at today, so I'm really, really excited. We're going to get right into it. I know you guys just want to see the lists, and I'm going to probably talk for a long time, so you guys can skip through if you want. But we're going to start at number 16, and this is CYJ 95077. I don't know, but he is from, of course, let's see, Taiwan. And he was playing Victini VMAX. We actually did have two Victini VMAXs make top 16 this week. Again, probably one of the best decks to come out of Battle Styles. Kind of just fell back for a while when Chilling Reigns first came out. People just weren't playing it because it wasn't like that new hype deck. But it is, of course, a phenomenal list. And it makes sense that it would be really successful. This list here is actually really different. Let's see if I can center this on the screen for you guys. I might have to close down these ads. Let's see here. All right, yeah, so that should be good for you guys to look at. So this is a crazy Victini VMAX list. It's a lot different than some people might think. It's honestly like an Aurora Mewtwo. It's like a Welder Mewtwo Aurora box Victini VMAX. There's a lot going on here. We'll try to unpack it. Of course, we have a 2-2 Victini VMAX lineup. And we have 3 Dedennes and 1 Crobat. So again, this deck list is going to really rely on discarding a lot of cards, just kind of moving through our deck quickly with the high count of Dedenne and the Crobat in there. We have a lot of secondary attackers other than the Victini VMAX. Victini VMAX is really good against other V and VMAX Pokemon, but when you're playing against decks that don't use those Pokemon specifically, sometimes maybe even like a Calyrex who's utilizing Gengar Mimikyu or Trevenant and Dusknoir, or I guess Pikarom is another example, ADP. There's a lot of just different examples of decks that don't exclusively run V and VMAX Pokemon. And that's where Victini VMAX, of course, is good against. But we have a lot of other attackers for those scenarios. And it looks like we're actually teching in a lot of different things in this list, which is super funny. We have 1 Galarian Zapdos V thrown in here. And this is, of course, going to do really good against Eternatus VMAX. And we see the 4 Aurora Energies. And this is how we're going to kind of utilize most of these other attackers. So we have a Zapdos in there, probably for E-Turn. Although Victini does have a pretty decent E-Turn matchup, the Galarian Zapdos probably just helps more with that. We have 1 Heatran GX and Reshiram and Charizard GX. These are 2 probably of our best Fire-type attackers that aren't, of course, V or VMAX Pokemon. So 2 GX, great Fire-type attackers, really good. We have a Volcanion in here, just 1. This could be in here for Decidueye, potentially, Altaria, but it might just be in here, of course, as a really good starting option if we are going to go second. Victini likes to go first for the most part. In most matchups, it likes to go first, just attach. But if you are stuck going second, I suppose we do have access to this Volcanion, to which we could most likely, hopefully at least switch into it and get a Flare starter off on our first turn going second. So that's probably going to be beneficial. Some more support Pokemon here. Eldegoss, Kricketune. Eldegoss, get our supporters back. Kricketune, just a nice little draw support card there. We have a Mawile GX, and this is super interesting. I don't know exactly why the Mawile GX is in here. It could just be in here for the ability, Captivating Wink, but I guess I suppose we could use the attack as well. We could Wily Bite in some scenarios, but I believe we're probably just running it for Captivating Wink, the ability, which we get to look at our opponent's hand and then put any basic Pokemon from their hand onto their bench, which can be really good for sure, especially in a lot of different matchups. And then we have, of course, the Mewtwo thrown in here, and this is probably when we're going to utilize the attacks of things like Mawile, Reshiram and Charizard, Heatran GX, but we also have Gengar Mimikyu GX, which is another absolutely phenomenal attacker in this format. It's just interesting. I guess it only takes 2 Psychic Energies, so if we get double Aurora on Mewtwo or whatnot, we can utilize that. But I guess for just 1 Aurora, we can Whorehouse GX. It's just kind of an interesting card to be put in this Victini list. This is definitely a little bit more unorthodox, but I do like it. 4 Welder, 3 Boss, 1 Research. Pretty standard Victini VMAX support lineup there. 4 Quick Ball, 3 Pokecoms, 2 Cherish Balls, so a lot of Pokemon Search, 3 Switch, 2 Air Balloon, a lot of switching options. We got 2 Stamps, Ordinary Rod, 1 Fan of Waves, 1 Tool Jammer, all kind of some really good techs in there. 3 Giant Hearts as our stadiums, and then 8 Basic Fires, and then the 4 Aurora. So it's a really cool list. It honestly is very cool. I haven't seen anyone play a list like this at all, like since Chilling Reign came out. And it's nice to see that it made top 16 out of 527 players. So, of course, the person playing it was probably pretty talented. You know, we kind of have to assume that at this point. But his list was really unique, so that's definitely super cool. Right off the gate, just taking a look at a really, really interesting Victini VMAX list. So, we'd love to see that. Shout out to CYJ. Super cool. Next up at 15, we have Kant from Japan. He was playing Lucmetal. Lucmetal seems to be the most well-represented deck in our top 16 this week. We had 1, 2, 3, 4 Lucmetals, so, you know, a fourth, I suppose, of our decks were Lucmetal, and that's kind of interesting, I suppose. With all the hype around all the new cards and new decks from Chilling Reigns, Lucmetal was probably the last deck that people assumed would be really good. But as we saw, and if you guys haven't gone and seen the grand finals match, I highly recommend that you go check that out. I posted it a few days ago. That was Lucmetal versus Shadow Rider in the finals, and that'll give you an idea of why a lot of people might be playing Lucmetal at this point. But this is a pretty standard Lucmetal list, I think, at this point. We're running the Tag Call engine, and we have an Aegislash teched in here. One thing I want to note is we actually don't have any Quick Balls, which is super interesting, but what we do have is we have 3 Tag Calls, and then we have 3 Capture Energies. So on our first turn, or just in the first few turns, it's very likely that we're going to be able to either Tag Call for Guzmahala, and then find Capture Energy to find our Zacian, or we're just going to either start with one of our 4 Zacians, or we're going to start with one of our 3 Capture Energies. But yeah, no Quick Ball to find Zacian, which I do find to be interesting. Everything else in here, though, seems to be pretty normal. High count of Marnie, Boss, 2 Malalana, 2 Syncate, 1 Guzmahala, which I kind of like. 4 Switch, 4 Saucer, 3 Doll. All pretty standard stuff. We do have 2 stamps in here with a Tool Scrapper, 3 Goggles, 1 Cape of Toughness, and then 3 Chaotic Swells. I think right now, especially if you're playing any Zacian deck, you have to run a high count of Chaotic Swell with all those Path to the Peaks running around, as well as things like Zamazenta V, right? It just kind of makes a whole lot of sense. So definitely interesting, for sure. But yeah, I mean, it's Lucmetal. It's not too crazy. It's not too unorthodox or out of the ordinary, but it is an interesting Lucmetal list, and Aegislash was thrown in there. Decidueye did win like a big invitational recently. I think it was Limitless, so I think that's a big reason why some people might have been teching for Decidueye Altaria in this tournament. But yeah, anyway, here's Lucmetal from Kant. Shout out to Kant. 15th in the tournament. At 14th, we have Eterna68, and this dude is from Indonesia, and he was also playing Lucmetal. So let's see if his Lucmetal list is maybe a little bit different. He was playing Lucmetal Hammers, which, spoiler, was actually the archetype, the list that won the tournament. Our first place list was Lucmetal running Hammers. We have no Aegislash tech in here, but, you know, we don't have much room in the deck if we're running 4 Crushing Hammers, but also no Quick Balls, but we're running 4 Tag Calls, a lot of Tag Team supporters, of course, the 2 Lucmetals, 4 Marnie, 4 Boss, so pretty similar lineup of everything, 1 less Swell, and 1 less Capture Energy, but yeah, everything else in here is very similar. 2 Coning Energy. Welder just isn't very well represented, like Fire decks right now. They're not super well represented in our meta, at least not yet. At least I'm sure they will eventually. But yeah, so that kind of probably justifies the lower count of Coating Energy, and I do kind of like Capture. I think Capture is very needed in Lucmetal. So yeah, I mean, here's Lucmetal Hammers. I know it can be really successful against Calyrex, both Calyrex decks. So I think that Lucmetal is actually a really good pick. I think it can deal with Shadow Rider and Ice Rider pretty well, at least most of some of those lists that people are building for those Calyrex decks. So I find it to be interesting. I really do. And I'm a big Lucmetal guy. I mean, I hate playing against Lucmetal, but Lucmetal was the list that I used to qualify for Players Cup 4. I didn't play it in the actual Players Cup tournament, but to qualify, I played almost exclusively Lucmetal, and it was really, really good. And it seems really good. So if I were to play a tournament in this format right now, I might actually play Lucmetal if I didn't want to play one of the new decks. So shout out to Eterna. Shout out to that dude right there. All right, next up, we're going to be taking a look after that start. I mean, the Victini was a good start, but there's a lot of different decks that we have to take a look at today. So at 13, we have Crandidos King from the US. He was playing Ice Rider. There's a couple different ways that people are playing Ice Rider. The first one here being, and the one that we're taking a look at right here, is going to be the Inteleon Shady Dealings engine. And this is going to be the main way that we find the supporter cards that we need. It's our draw engine. We also have two quick shooting Inteleons in there to kind of fix some math, which I do like. And the other version is going to be Cinchino, Make Do engine. Yeah, so this is the other version. This is the Inteleon version, which is really good. To be honest with you, I don't know exactly what the best way to play Ice Rider is right now, but I do know for sure that this Inteleon engine is extremely good. It's good in Urshifu as well. So running a 4-3 Calyrex lineup, 4-4-3 Sobble, Drizzile, Inteleon lineup. Of course, we're running 4 of the new Sobbles just because it's better, I guess. than the other Sobble. For the Shady Dealings Drizzile, which again, if we evolve into Drizzile, we can search our deck for any trainer card. Really, really good card there. And these are all searchable with Level Ball, so keep that in mind. And we also have 2 of the Quick Shooting Inteleons, but we do have 1 Shady Dealings Inteleon. So potentially, right, we get 2 Shadow Riders down on our board. Probably a couple of those, probably 2 or 3 Sobble, Drizzile, Inteleons. And then, of course, we have a couple spots, at some point for Dedenne, Marshadow, Mew, things like that. So it is a really good engine. There's a lot of different Pokemon, but we're running a lot of Pokemon search, as you can see, for Quick Ball or Level Ball. The Level Ball is actually going to be able to search for Mew and Marshadow, as well as Sobble and Drizzile. So Level Ball is just extremely good in this list as well. It sees play in the Minccino version as well, because those are under 90 HP as well. 1 Evolution Incense, 1 Pokecom. So again, a lot of Pokemon search up in here. But we're utilizing Melanie, which is the new supporter, which came out in Chilling Rain. It's so good for Ice Rider. This card was made for Ice Rider. We get to attach a water energy from our discard pile to one of our water V Pokemon, or just to one of our V Pokemon, and if we do, we draw 3 cards. So kind of like Welder, but a little bit nerfed, but it's really good with Ice Rider because we attack for only 2 energies, and we discard those energies after we attack. So pretty much just the way that we can shuffle through energies while drawing cards. And when we have... of course, the Shady Dealings engine to just search out Melanie if we need it on command. 3 Boss, 3 Marnie, 1 Research. We went over the Pokemon search. We do have 1 Scoop Up Net, which is interesting, I guess, to reuse maybe a Drizzile and Inteleon. And we also have 2 Switch. So 2 Switch are the only switching options in our whole deck other than the Scoop Up Net Pivot, which is interesting. I think that Air Balloon is really good in Ice Rider, but I do just think it's kind of cool that we're running just only 2 Switch in here. 1 Stamp, 1 Scoop Up Net. Yeah, 1 Capacious Bucket. Now, I don't think you really need... many Capacious Buckets in this list. He's running 9 energies, which isn't a whole lot, but since our attacks only take 2 energies and we're a lot of times accelerating from our discard pile, 1 Capacious Bucket is most likely just going to be enough, because technically, that's just another searchable energy, except you can actually grab 2, which is kind of cool. And then 4 Path to the Peaks. Now, Path to the Peak is a very good defensive stadium. It goes perfectly with Ice Rider. Things like Viridian Forest is probably the best offensive stadium that we can run in Ice Rider. Which I do think both of them are really good. They both have their merits, but I think that, Path to the Peak is pretty disruptive. The only thing with Path right now is, as we saw earlier, is a lot of these decks are running high counts of Chaotic Swell. I know we're running a Marshadow, but if they're running 3-4 Chaotic Swells, these Path to the Peaks just aren't going to be super useful realistically, but definitely interesting nonetheless. So yeah, Ice Rider. One of the 2 versions that people are playing, some new other versions might pop up of Calyrex Ice Rider, but for now, the Inteleon, Shady Dealings engine, Quick Shooting, and then the Cinccino Make Do. Those are the kind of the 2 versions. So we'll take a look at the other one, but anyway, I like that one a lot, so shout out to Cranidos King. Very cool. Very, very cool. Ben T is next. He's 12th. This guy is from Taiwan. And he was playing ADP Moltres. That's kind of what they classify this list. But, when we go and take a look at it, it's more of just like an ADP box deck. Because, of course, Moltres is, again, we have a 2 of a Moltres. It's interesting, right? It's just kind of an interesting way to classify the list. But it's ADP Bird Trio. It's ADP box. It's just an ADP deck. We still have Zacians, but we have a lot of other attackers in here for a variety of different reasons. So, of course, yeah. So 2 ADP, much needed for sure. 2 Zacians, again, probably one of our primary attackers, but we have Moltres in here, and the reason the Moltres is in here is really just as an attacking option, right? With all the Shadow Riders running around right now, those guys are weak to Dark, right? They're actually just weak to Dark type Pokemon. So having a couple Moltres in there, which takes 2 Dark and a colorless to use the attack, it's actually a really great attack. Does 190, right? But then that's actually plus 30 after the ADP boost, which is a lot of damage. Definitely one hit KOing a Shadow Rider, so keep that in mind. It also hits for weakness on things like Trevenant, Dusknoir, and Gengar Mimikyu, so it's just a really good option. And of course, it's pretty easy to accelerate energies to it with its Dire Flame Wings ability. So yeah, 2 Dedennes, 1 Crobat, standard ADP stuff. We have a Zapdos in here, which is teched for E-Turn. Right now, E-Turn isn't as popular as Shadow Rider, so it makes sense that we're running 1 Zapdos and 2 Moltres. Eldegoss, pretty common in ADP. We have an Aegislash in here as sort of that tech attacker to deal with Decidueye and, of course, Altaria. We have a Mawile, just normal ADP stuff, but we do have Zamazenta V, which is very interesting, but it's actually, a lot of people kind of meme about throwing Zamazenta in ADP, but it can be absolutely incredible in a lot of matchups. Mew, just because Mew is still really relevant with Pikarom, Urshifu, and Inteleon. A lot of things that Mew can be really good with. we're running Mew and ADP. Why not? And then we have Oricorio GX. So this deck is running a lot of different Pokemon, but each one actually is really useful and has a lot of purpose, which I like. 4 Research, 4 Boss, 1 Marnie, standard ADP supporter lineup. 4 Quick Balls, 3 Metal Saucers, 3 E-Switch. So again, all kind of standard stuff. However, only 3 Metal Saucers is interesting, but we're running less basic Metal Energy, so it kind of makes sense in my opinion. 2 Cherish Balls, 2 Switch, 1 Escape Rope, 1 Stamp, 1 Echoing Horn, 2 Air Balloon. All really good standard ADP stuff, and the double Viridian Forest, which I really like. This deck has a lot of synergy, and again, like Victini, there's a lot of stuff that's happening in this list. There's a lot of things going on, but it actually is really cohesive, and it all comes together extremely well. I really like this ADP list, and in my opinion, a lot of people hate ADP, but this is a different ADP. It's a different era. This ADP actually takes a lot of skill. There's a lot of proper, routes and matchups. It's very interesting for sure. 5 Metal, 4 Dark, 1 Water, 4 Aurora Energies. The Auroras are going to be good. We can get those Darks in the discard pile. We can also Viridian away a Dark, grab a Dark. We can do a lot of things to set up this Moltres as well. So this Moltres fits in here very, very, very well. And yeah, I really do like it. The obviously 1 Water, the Auroras work with ADP, so we got to keep that in mind. It's just really cool. It is absolutely phenomenal. I will definitely probably make a video on this list at some point because it is absolutely one of my favorite lists that I've really seen since Chilling Reign came out. It's actually really creative, and I do like it. So it's actually crazy. So this might be like the final version of ADP before it actually goes away and rotates. So from all the hate that ADP got, it ended up being actually a really creative, a really cool list before it rotated. So it's definitely kind of cool. Next up, we have Laturo. Capiche? I don't know. He's 11th. He's from, what is this, Argentina? Yep. And he was playing Ice Rider. So let's see what this Ice Rider version was. I think he was also in the Inteleon Ice Rider, so it was actually, okay. So we might not actually look at a Minccino version. So maybe this is actually the best way to play Ice Rider, which I'm fine with. I got no issues with that. Very similar to the last one that we saw. One thing I do want to note, though, is that we're running 1 extra Shady Dealings Inteleon, so we're actually running a 4-4-4 lineup, which is a lot. So we have a lot of Pokemon in this list, and we also have a Mew thrown in here. But one thing I do want to note, though, is we're actually not running any stadiums, so he's kind of foregoing the whole Shady Dealings, or not Shady Dealings, Path to the Peak, Viridians, on all of that business. He's like, get that out of here. We're not dealing with that in Ice Rider. We're just going max. Just consistency cards, which I like. The supporter lineup's pretty much the same, except we have 2 Leon. We have 1 Leon, so a Leon in here is pretty cool. Of course, that's actually really phenomenal because we can play that, and then all of a sudden with Shadow Rider, we're doing 280 damage. Sorry, with Ice Rider, we're doing 280 damage. And then if we have a couple quick shooting Inteleons out here, all of a sudden, we're doing 320 damage in 1 turn to one particular Pokemon, which is absolutely super, super cool. I like it. So a really high damage hitting Ice Rider variant. 1 Crobat, 1 Dedenne. 4 Quick Ball, 3 Calm, 2 Evolution Incense, 2 Cat Buckets, 2 Level Balls. So a little bit lower on the Level Ball count, which is interesting, higher on the Pokécom count. Tomato. They both kind of have their own merits, which is interesting, but I don't know how I feel. I know that Level Ball is really good because we can search out a lot of Pokemon in our deck that are helpful, but Pokécom does the same thing, and we're running a lot of Pokemon in our list, so Pokécom might actually be better in this scenario. 2 Switch, 1 Air Balloon. We are due to the Air Balloon, and we see a Tool Jammer, which is super strange and really cool. A lot of people kind of ripped on Tool Jammer when it came out as well, but it's actually seen quite a bit of play. And I don't know what specifically Tool Jammer is in here for. To be honest with you, maybe it's just to get rid of Big Charm off of some tag team Pokemon, so we can kind of KO those things. I don't actually know. I don't really know. Maybe it's for Metal Goggles because of the quick shooting. I don't know. We have no idea. There's no way to know. 2 Capacious Buckets with 9 Water Energies. Excuse me. So yeah, here it is. Ice Rider. I don't know if there was another one for us to take a look at, but again, a lot of people's favorite deck, Pokemon card to come out of Chilling Reign. Which, I don't disagree with. Ice Rider is super, super cool. Okay, we're going to move on. Was there any more, by the way? Let me look. So, no, but we do have 3 Shadow Riders to take a look at. And we're going to go right off with Andre W. from Germany, 10th, and he was playing a Shadow Rider list. Let's take a look at his Shadow Rider list and see what he's rocking with. Okay, so a lot less going on in this list, but we all know how powerful just straight-up Shadow Rider can really be. It is. It's really good. 4/4 Shadow Rider lineup, 2 Galarian Zapdos Vs for those E-turns, which we don't actually see anymore, but you know what? It's there anyway. 2 Dedennes, Gengar Mimikyu as another great attacking option, and then 1 Marshadow in our list. Yeah, there we go. I mean, straight to the point, but really effective. 4 Research, 3 Boss, 3 Marnies. Personally, when I'm playing Shadow Rider, I like 4 Marnie, 3 Research, if I were to do that. But you know, to me, it is what it is. You know, 4 Quick Ball, 4 4 Fog Crystal, and then 3 Evolution Incense. That's our Pokemon Search, as well as some Energy Search there with Fog Crystal. A really diverse, versatile card that is extremely good in any Shadow Rider list. 2 Switch, 1 Energy Retrieval. I do really like Energy Retrieval in Shadow Rider. So E-Retrieval is good because it's just a +2 energy to hand, and we need those energies in our hand to use our Underworld doors pretty consistently, right? So Energy Retrieval is really good. It also gets them out of the discard pile if some got discarded or if your Pokemon got KO'd. I just think that at least one E-Retrieval in Shadow Rider is really, really good. Same with 1 Reset Stamp for sure. 3 Air Balloons on top of the 2 Switch, so a lot of different switching options in this list. And then we have 2 Chaotic Swells on top of 1 Path to the Peak. So Path to the Peak is really good. However, unfortunately, we all know that we cannot utilize the abilities of a lot of the Pokemon in our deck with Path to the Peak. So, you know, it's not super needed, but a lot of times in some matchups, the Pokemon you're going against or the deck you're going against also gets kind of walled by Path to the Peak, and that's where you know, we can kind of use our abilities and then at the end of our turn play it. And the next turn, hopefully they don't have a way to get rid of it. And that's the idea. And the next turn we can Quick Ball or Fog Crystal to find our Marshadow, right? So that's kind of the whole idea behind the list, is with that we defensively use Path to the Peak and then we get rid of it the next turn. So that's just kind of how it goes. But we also have 2 Chaotic Swells in here because if our opponent tries to do that to us, we can get rid of their Chaotic Swell or their Path to the Peak effectively. So it's an interesting kind of play. That's kind of what this format is now. It's kind of like the Path to the Peak battle, the battle of turning off our opponent's abilities, but interesting nonetheless that we're running 2 Swell, 1 Peak. 12 basic Psychic Energies, that's pretty normal for Calyrex, and then 3 Auroras, because of course, if we are playing against E-Turn, we want to be able to utilize these 2 Galarian Zapdos to their highest potential. So, Shadow Rider, it's a pretty normal, pretty standard Shadow Rider list, nothing too crazy going on here, but one that I really do like. I think it's very, very good. Extremely good, honestly. So, awesome. Very cool. Shout out to Andre. Shout out to you, Andre. Next up, we have Nagi. So this is Jake Pilch, one of my friends here. Great player. And he was playing Urshifu. This was actually our only Rapid Strike Urshifu in top 16. So, again, a deck that just kind of fell to the back when Shadow Rider came out. Everyone was like, well, now with Shadow Rider, Urshifu's not going to be good anymore. But you know what? It is good. Don't even worry about it. We still have Jiraiya GX to get rid of our Psychic weakness. We have Passimian to increase the damage done to bench Pokemon with our Gmax Rapid Flow. And Jake is actually running the Scoop Up Net Jirachi engine still as well. So kind of a throwback. But again, my favorite way to play Urshifu still to this day. 2 Dedenne, 1 Crobat, 1 Zigzagoon, which again, you should always have in a deck with 4 Scoop Up Nets. Same with 1 Mewtwo as well. Mewtwo is a card that goes really, really well in Jirachi engine decks. 4 Marnie, 4 Boss, 4 Research, 1 Phoebe. Very good supporter lineup, pretty standard stuff, but very consistent stuff. We got a 4-3 Urshifu lineup because I forgot to mention that. 4 Switch, 4 Scoop Up Net, 2 Air Balloon, lots of switching outs for playing Urshifu. 4 Quick Ball, 4 Calm, that's the way we're going to find all our Pokemon. 2 Martial Arts Dojo to increase the damage that we're doing to the active Pokemon. And then we have 5 Basics, 4 Rapid Strike Energy. So nothing too crazy going on here. Nothing super spicy. We have the Passimian, but we don't have Telescopic Sight, and we don't have Karate Belt. We don't have... I don't know, you know, whatever else you might be running in Urshifu. But yeah, it is really good. And we've seen Urshifus beat Calyrexes before. It's good against ADP, Victini, Ice Rider. It's just a really phenomenal card still, even with all the Shadow Riders running around. So, yeah, I mean, here it is. Rapid Strike Urshifu. Kind of yesterday's news, but still a phenomenal list. So it's cool to see that. And 9th too. Shout out to Jake. Shout out to Nagi. All right, gonna get a top 8. 23 minutes in. We're gonna move a bit quicker, hopefully. Arlon143 from the US is playing Pikarom, and let's take a look at his Pikarom list. So this is Path to the Pikarom. LOL, pun intended. Really funny way that people are playing Pikarom these days, in a way that I really do like. It's interesting because we have 2 Dedennes, 1 Crobat, 1 Eldegoss, 1 Tapu Koko, Prism Star. These are Pokemon that obviously cannot use their abilities when Path to the Peak are in play. But again, like I said, we can use our abilities, right, on our turn if Peak isn't in play. And then after we use our abilities, we can, of course, utilize Path to the Peak and get that in play. So it's kind of a deck that we're kind of want to set up. We're going to use the cards that we want, use the abilities that we want, and then we're going to start, we're going to put Path to the Peak in play, and then we're going to pressure our opponent with, of course, Tandem Shock, and the ability to just kind of accelerate energies rapidly, and do kind of pretty consistent damage. So I do like Path to the Peak and Pikarom. It is cool. I don't know. It's kind of the new flavor. Is it going to be the best way to play Pikarom right now? I don't know. It's what people are playing. I know Azul kind of played this as well, either this week or last week. But yeah, it's cool, and it definitely is pretty good. Yeah. Okay. So 4 Research, 3 Marnie, 4 Boss, standard stuff. 4 Switch, 2 Air Balloon. Yep. 4 Quick Ball. Yep. Okay. Big Charm, actually. So we have 2 Big Charms and 2 Air Balloon in here. But yeah, everything else in here pretty normal. Pretty normal stuff. It's Pikarom. It's Path to the Pikarom. Path to the Peak. It's kind of cool. I don't know. Okay, anyway, we're going to get out of here. Shout out to Pikarom. Shout out to Arlen. Great deck. I love to see it. Next up, we have Juan Andre, 7th. And our dude Juan was playing Spiritomb. Spiritomb's really good. I mean, people were playing Spiritomb last format, but now with all the Shadow Riders running around, we have a consistent, powerful, well thought out, well constructed single prize archetype deck, which of course is Dark type and can hit for weakness on Shadow Riders. So pretty advantageous. I'm surprised that more people don't play Spiritomb. However, it does kind of have a high skill gap. There's a lot of proper sequencing that goes into playing this list, so it kind of maybe does make sense that not a lot of people are playing it, but a really phenomenal list for sure. For those of you that don't know, we utilize Cape of Toughness to increase the HP on Spiritomb. We have Spike Myth to increase or to put damage counters under a Spiritomb because our attack does more damage the more counters are on Spiritomb. So that's the whole idea of it. So we have Spike Myth and we have a bunch of switching outs to switch in and out. Place damage counters all around. Jinx to move the damage counters. Jirachi, Dedenne, Oricorio, Mew to draw cards. Mew to protect our bench. Marshadow to get rid of Path to the Peaks and whatnot. Yeah, I mean, it's a really good list. Rosa, Birdkeeper, Research, Boss. It's got a lot of great stuff. Most of our Pokemon are searchable with Level Ball as well. Yeah, it's just a really fun list. One of my favorite single prize archetypes right now. Blacephalon, Blounce hasn't seen a lot of play. That new Rapid Strike Malamar's seen quite a bit of play, but Spiritomb seems to be the single prize archetype to be playing right now in this format. So that's just pretty interesting. Keep that in mind. So yeah, Spiritomb. Take this one in. I made a Spiritomb video a while ago. But of course, it's not a deck that I've covered too often. But it might be time to recover Spiritomb because it's gonna be pretty popular for the next few months, in my opinion. So super cool, Spiritomb. Absorb it, take it in, memorize it, and try it out for yourself. Pretty difficult list to play, honestly. Shout out to Juan Andre. Tommy Leal from Argentina. Here's our 3rd Lucmetal list of the tournament. Let's see if there's anything here that we haven't seen before. Here's something interesting is we have a Marshadow with 2 Chaotic Swell. So again, we really don't want to see Path to the Peak. It's a stadium that we're really pretty afraid of in here. It's interesting because, the Marshadow wouldn't be necessary in this list, except now we're not running Guzmahala to find our Chaotic Swells, but we're running 4 Quick Balls to find our Pokemon. 1 Tag Call still, but yeah, 4 Quick Balls, so we can find Marshadow pretty consistently in the list, but we're not really able to find Chaotic Swell other than just drawing into it, so that's probably why we have a Marshadow in here. This is a kind of a funky Lucmetal list. Jake Earhart might be like rolling in his grave right now looking at this, but I kind of like it, and there's no special energies in here either. There's no capture, there's no coding energy, so our Intrepid Swords are going to be much more effective with 13 basic metals than they otherwise would be. So it's actually kind of cool. I think he's actually onto something, to be honest with you. I think just running a high count of basic energies and then maybe just 3 or 4 Chaotic Swells without the Marshadow. And then maybe you keep Tackle Engine. Personally, I'm just kind of brainstorming. We can just Intrepid Sword pretty consistently. Because of course we have 4 Quick Balls in our list with 4 Zacian, so we should be able to get Zacian off first turn. And that Intrepid Sword should be grabbing like at least 1 energy every time you do it, which is actually kind of crazy. So here it is, Lucmetal. We're taking a look at 4 different Lucmetal lists today. So I think that Lucmetal is a very viable deck to be playing. I do. I think that if you're going to be playing a deck right now in this format, Lucmetal is a good choice. So, food for thought. Just kind of think about how you want to be playing Lucmetal. That could be smart. It could be something, if you're a Lucmetal player, it's definitely something you want to do. So there's hammers, there's tag call, there's quick ball, and this is kind of the quick ball variant of the list. So super cool. I like it. I like the basics and I like the quick balls. It's different, but it does have its advantages in some ways. At 5th, we have Andrew Hedrick, one of the best online players in our game right now. Very consistent, great player. And again, he was playing Victini VMAX. So let's take a look at his Victini list. And we can see that this is actually Victini Rapidash. So at the end of Battle Styles, when that promo Rapidash came out, Victini Rapidash was actually all the rage, and it did win Chill Series and made the finals a couple times as well. It's a really good list. Just doesn't see as much play as it did before. I don't know why exactly, but here it is. So he only has 1 Rapidash in his Victini list, which is a little bit different, but again, probably not super necessary because most of the decks we're actually playing right now are going to be like Shadow Rider, Ice Rider, are going to utilize V and VMAX Pokemon. So Rapidash becomes a little bit less necessary with less Pikarom and things like that in the format. So maybe 1 Rapidash is pretty smart. We still have Heatran, Reshizard, 1 Volcanion, Eldegoss, Jirachi, Scoop Up Nedengine, 2 Dedenne, 1 Crobat, 4 Boss, 4 Welder. Pretty standard Victini supporter lineup there, like I said before. 1 Marshadow, 1 Mew. Everything else in here is pretty normal. So yeah, it's Victini VMAX. It's Victini Rapidash. That's still what I would consider it. So definitely super cool. Andrew Hedrick is a phenomenal player, and Victini actually seemed like a good meta call right now. It really did. I really assume that this list does pretty well with Lucmetal, although we don't really have any way to discard special energies. But that being said, we're still doing pretty well against Lucmetal, in my opinion. So definitely a cool list. Definitely a cool Victini list. And hopefully Victini sees more play, because I think that it should survive rotation really, really easily. But at the same time, I think it also has a really good spot right now in our Chilling Reign format. So 2 Victinis in top 16, just kind of food for thought, honestly. 4 Lucmetals, 2 Victinis. So Spiritomb as well. So just kind of keep that in mind. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to Andrew. Next up, we have Caropon from Japan, another great player, and he was playing Calyrex, Shadow Rider, Alcremie VMAX. So this is kind of that post-rotation combination. But a lot of synergy between Alcremie VMAX and Shadow Rider VMAX, and a lot of people know about it. Saw a lot of hype, but it is actually good. So it's cool to see it making top 4 actually at Chill Series. So yeah, 4-4-2-2 lineup of the V and V Maxes. 1 Crobat, 1 Dedenne. We do have Gengar, Mimikyu, and Trevenant and Dusknoir in here as our GX attackers, and we have a Marshadow thrown in here as well. So yeah, nothing too crazy, right, about the list. 4 Research, 3 Boss, 3 Marnie, 4 Quick Ball, 4 Fog Crystal, 2 Evolution Incense, 2 Pokecom, lots of Pokemon Search, lots of different Pokemon in our list. 6 Evolution Pokemon as well, so that that makes sense why we're actually just running a couple Evo Incense. 1 Ordinary Rod. Think that's pretty much needed, especially in Alcremie. 2 Air Balloon, give all of our Pokemon free, free retreat, except for Trevenant, Dusknoir, and Alcremie, but most of them. 2 Training Courts as well. So this is actually interesting when you're playing Alcremie Calyrex. Training Court is actually your best option. If we do utilize Alcremie VMAX's attack, we discard those energies, so it's nice to be able to Ordinary Rod, shuffle them back into our deck, and then Training Court slowly kind of put them back into our hand, so we can Underworld Door. Right, so I think Training Court is really smart. It's also one of those things where if we Dedenne and Research and we discard a couple of these Psychic energies, Training Court's going to help us put those directly back into our hand, which is where we're going to be utilizing the Underworld Door ability, right? So a lot of synergy in the list. It is a really clever, a really great way to play Calyrex. I know it's not like this super cool way. The cool kids aren't playing Alcremie, but Alcremie is definitely super cool in my opinion. So, yeah, here it is, Alcremie. This is actually the version that I play IRL as well. So just keep that in mind, if that's relevant at all. Probably not. Caropon. Shout out to Caropon. At 3rd, we had Airala. I'm not sure. He's from Australia, though. And here's another ADP box, another ADP Moltres. Almost exactly the same, I think, as the last ADP list, except we're not running Mew in this one. We're running an echoing horn though, yeah. So I mean, everything else in here is actually extremely similar. So you know, nothing too different than the last ADP list that we took a look at. But again, this is what ADP is right now. This is actually like how people are playing ADP. And this is an ADP version, an ADP list that is doing extremely well. And I'm really excited about it. I'm not a big ADP guy, but this is a really fun list in my opinion. I love when we're running different types of attackers. We have Dark, Fighting, Steel, Dragon. It's just really good. It's a really cool list. I don't know. I like it. Don't consider me an ADP buff, but this is definitely super cool. Yeah, I mean, and yeah, it's pretty much similar to the last one. I'm not going to go over it too much. Just going to take a look at it. We're just going to appreciate it. And yeah, got third at our tournament. This baby got third out of 527 people. Wancho S. So Wancho S is from the Philippines. He's from the Philippines. And he played Wade Days in finals from Japan. And if you guys want to go check out this grand finals match, I highly recommend it. Very fun set to watch. Was Shadow Rider Calyrex versus Lucmetal. So go check that out. I posted it a few days ago. This Shadow Rider list from Wancho is interesting because it's not technically like strictly Alcremie VMAX with Shadow Rider, but he has a 1-1 lineup, so it's like a little bit of both. But we have 2 Gengar Mimikyus in here, no Trev Noir. And you can kind of see that of all the Shadow Riders we take a look at, they are very similar in nature, but sometimes people just kind of change them around slightly to kind of fit their agenda in a way. But yeah, this is still very similar to all the other ones that we saw. This guy is running one Zapdos with 3 Aurora, which I find interesting. I think if you're only running 1 Zapdos, I don't know if you need 3 Aurora energies, but that's just me. And we actually have a Sonya in here as well. The Sonya's cool. We get to just put 2 or 3 basic Pokemon on our bench as a supporter. So if we're going second, this actually seems to be a pretty good supporter card. And I do quite like it, actually, in Shadow Rider, because we like to populate our bench with Shadow Rider Vs. So definitely super cool. Yeah, here it is. This deck made it to finals, and Shadow Rider is phenomenal. Realistically, a lot of people are debating like what's the best way to play Shadow Rider VMAX. In my opinion, any Shadow Rider list that looks remotely similar to any of the ones that we took a look at today, you have a pretty good chance of doing well in the tournament. So just because this one went the farthest doesn't mean it's the best list in the tournament, but you know, it's just kind of how it is, right? Any Shadow Rider list honestly could do well. It just kind of comes down to like how the chips fall and how they fall, if you know what I mean. I don't know what that saying even means. But anyway, I've been talking for a long time. I'm tired. Sorry about that. Anyway, Shadow Rider, nice. Wade Days playing Lucmetal. He was playing Lucmetal Hammers. I might have to make a video on Lucmetal Hammers as well. Since it did win the tournament, I might have to. But yeah, it's just Lucmetal Tag Call Engine with Crushing Hammers. We took a look at a very similar list earlier, but he played this list absolutely perfectly. And again, if you guys go take a look at the Grand Finals match, you'll see it was a pretty swift 2-0 victory, but both games were actually really close, came down to the wire. He actually utilized a lot of the cards in his deck to actually deck out his opponent in finals, which was really interesting. And was really close. But yeah, 2 Chaotic Swells. We do have 10 basics, but with 2 Coding, 2 Capture, Tag Call Engine, 2 Guzmahela, 2 Melalana, 2 Syncate, 4 Hammers. It's actually a super standard run-of-the-mill kind of Lucmetal Hammers list. Like, there's not anything really crazy going on about it. And that's, I think, when Lucmetal is at its best, when you're just kind of playing plain Jane Lucmetal with some hammers thrown in there, you know, just good old Lucmetal. I don't know. Definitely super interesting, though. But yeah, there it is. This list won. Chill Series 37. But beat out 520 other players. So Lucmetal is the deck to beat right now. Definitely. Maybe Calyrex should start teching in cards for Lucmetal. I don't even know if there is cards that you can tech in for Lucmetal, to be honest with you. Okay, anyway. Thank you guys so much for watching. I've been Matty from Chill TCG. I love running the tournaments every week. I love talking about all the new decks, especially since the format is new. That's really entertaining for me. So hopefully it's entertaining for you guys as well. Congrats to everybody who made top 16. And shout out to everybody who plays in Chill Series tournaments every Wednesday. Chill Series 38 is, of course, going to be this Wednesday. Sponsored by PTCGO Zone. So we're going to get out of here. Thank you guys so much for watching. I've been Matty from Chill TCG. You guys have a great day. And I'll see you tomorrow for more videos, more coverage. It's going to be a great week. Really can't wait. If you're in the U.S. right now, happy holiday. If not, happy holiday still. I don't know. But yeah. All right, guys. You guys have a good one. Like the video, subscribe, all that good stuff. We'll catch you guys later. Yeah. Have a good one.